Let's be honest, when Dr. King marched, he didn't necessarily march for the rights to be on reality shows. Having said that, I think this is still an important discussion to have, so let's have it. I'm going to start with you, Seth. Do you think they have a case?
I think that they do. This is a landmark case. It's the first time that discrimination law meets reality TV. It's a landmark case because it's the first time that's happened in the United States. It would initially appear to be a rocky relationship because these kinds of instances really aren't traditional employment cases. But that's okay because the lawyers have correctly filed the case under what's essentially a contract discrimination case. I believe that legally works. Whether they'll win on the facts is another issue. But from a legal perspective, I believe that they have a case here.
Okay, what do they have to prove, though? They say that basically when they showed up at this casting call, they were basically immediately dismissed. Don't a lot of casting calls work that way? What do they have to prove?
Well, legally what they have to prove on the facts is that there was intentional discrimination. The complaint that I have reviewed that they did file a day or two ago is heavy on statistics. That's fine. Those statistics are interesting. But the Supreme Court in the Walmart case a few months ago said statistics won't get you there. You have to have evidence of actual discrimination based upon race. So the bottom line is that they have to show that the reason they were treated differently or a reason was because of race discrimination. That's what they have to establish.
Okay, Jen, I know you have done a lot of research about what goes on behind the scenes at these shows. What these gentlemen described, does it ring true to you?
It absolutely does, especially since we know that even though this is the first lawsuit that's come out on racial discrimination grounds, the Bachelor producers have been on notice for years from critics both on my side of the independent media and in corporate media as well. Entertainment Weekly, for example, last year asked Mike Fleiss, executive producer of The Bachelor, why after 23 seasons of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, there had never been a star of color on the show. And he said, first he joked and said, oh, I don't know, I think Ashley, the woman who was the star that time, I think she's 1/16 Cherokee, haha.
Oh,
and
dear.
Then he said, yeah, as if that's an appropriate response to a pattern of discrimination and a lack of inclusivity. But what was more interesting to me was that he followed up by saying, oh, you know, we always would like to have people of color on our shows, but then we get accused of tokenism. We feel like we, quote, have to wedge some African-American chicks in there. And then he said, we'd like to be able to have more people of color on the show, but they don't come forward. And to me, that relies on a huge level of disingenuous assumption that people don't know how TV works, because producers don't only wait for applicants to show up for these reality shows. They recruit. Most of those bachelors have not just been pulled out of the application pool, they've had producers go out and find them. So it's absolutely intentional. Even if it's not conscious, it's intentional.
And for the sake of transparency, I actually know someone who was a bachelor who was, in fact, recruited. To your point, Jen, he was absolutely recruited. He wasn't thinking about going on The Bachelor. They went in and found him. But I do want to read a statement, the rest of the statement from Warner Horizon. It says this way, the complaint is baseless and without merit. In fact, we have had various participants of color throughout the series history, and the producers have been consistently and publicly vocal about seeking diverse candidates for both programs. As always, we continue to seek out participants of color for both The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. But Jen, let's talk about the bigger issue of all reality shows. Why does it seem that so often people of color are on certain types of reality shows that seem to fit into the worst types of stereotypes about people of color?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that. In part, that's because on network television, shows like The Bachelor, which debuted in 2002, set a template for how women would be portrayed in reality TV going forward across the board, and how people of color would begin to be marginalized in most reality TV dating shows and many shows in general of other reality genres.